Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Edna and today I'm going to be filming some tips and recommendations that I have if you're traveling to Mexico City, aka La Ciudad de Mexico. I traveled at the end of February and we went for 5 days. It was amazing, honestly, one of my favorite trips. I really want to go back and I'm pretty sure I'm going to go sometime next year. I do apologize for not posting the vlog, but I filmed on my phone and honestly, like, that was a mistake. So you won't get the vlog, but I'll add some clips here and there throughout this video. And yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I wanted to make a guest appearance. Hi, mi amor. Oh, wow. The camera loves you. Okay, I'm gonna put you down, okay? So my first tip is make sure that you and everyone you're traveling with has a prepaid phone card or they've spoken with the phone provider here and they're able to use their phone in Mexico. I have T-Mobile, there was no issue there, but the person I was with was really struggling for a few days. If worse comes to worse, you can buy a phone at Xoxo, at any of the Xoxos. It will take like 30 minutes to an hour, and then you can get an older phone with a little like chip inside. So you can make that work, but the phone she got, I remember, didn't have like GPS or anything like that. Like, it wasn't a smartphone. I would just recommend you just buy a plan from your provider here. Before traveling, make sure you watch the exchange rate. The peso was fluctuating a lot a few months before we went on the trip, and I should have just exchanged, you know, like $200 or $300 just so I had cash with me when I got there months beforehand instead of like a week or two before the trip, because Wells Fargo really like scammed me. So I would say don't go to Wells Fargo. Surprisingly, the exchange rate was actually better at the airport and at banks in Mexico rather than the bank, like my bank here. When I went, I believe the peso was like 17 or 17 and a half to the dollar, but Wells Fargo gave it to me like at 15 and a half, and that was a little bit of a scam. Next, I would say don't do an overnight flight. I was coming in from California, so honestly, like, with the time difference, I didn't think it was worth it for us to do a red eye, then be exhausted by the time we got there, and I ended up having to pay for us to check in early. And I'll talk about that right now, about hotels, because girl, Expedia scammed us a little bit. But I would say just take a flight early in the morning, get there like at noon or 1, whatever, you know, somewhere around that time. That way you're well rested. We tried strategizing so that we wouldn't get there at night, but then we ended up getting there like at 5:30 in the morning. It ended up being the same thing. It was still really dark outside, and we ended up going with the first taxi we found. So that kind of went down the drain, and then we were exhausted. So regardless, we ended up not going out until like noon. So we still missed like half the day, and I feel like we would have been better off just getting there that morning, you know, 10 in the morning, noon, something like that. If you're going to use Expedia, just use it to look up hotels and then go on the hotel's website. Don't get scammed with paying like 4 times the price. I remember my room was like, I want to say it was like $70, $75. And when we checked in, there was a sign that said it was $16. I'm not going to lie, I tried canceling the hotels through Expedia and then just paying for it there, but they wouldn't let me. I ended up paying a few $100s to be there for the week, where I could have paid for the 5 days for $100. But it's okay, because now I know, and now I'm not gonna book through Expedia. For the most part, we only took taxis, and I loved it. The taxi drivers were super sweet, very informative, very funny. You know, like, just the people in Mexico are like bien chistosos, bien carismáticos. But I do want to say, watch out for taxis that turn off their meters, and they do this on purpose because they can tell if you're a tourist. Like, they can tell from the way you're dressed, the way you talk, like literally everything. And sometimes we noticed that their meter was either covered or fully turned off, and then it was kind of like on them to charge us whatever they wanted. On the last 2 days of the trip, we used Uber, and those fares kind of stayed the same. I will say I think once or twice I felt like they scammed us. They gave us a lot of information and tips that I was like, you know what, like, it is what it is. I didn't mind, but then, you know, like, also the feeling of feeling scammed is a little icky. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, it's up to you. Just try. You can try out either. They're both safe. But if the meter is turned off, just get off. Or you can ask them, hey, are you only in this area? Because there's taxis who only stay in a specific area. And yes, if they leave that area, then they will charge you more. I would recommend you research the areas that you want to visit, because Mexico is huge. It's huge, and for you to save time and maximize on the places that you're going to. So for example, El Bosque de Chapultepec had the zoo, and then right across the street were a bunch of museums. So that day, I remember in the morning we went to the zoo, which is free and I highly recommend. Then we walked where all the vendors were and then crossed the street, and I went to, I think, the archaeology museum. Yeah, I think it was El Museo de Arqueología. And honestly, it was amazing. That took the majority of the day. So just do your research on each of the zones, and then it'll make it easier. That way you don't have to travel back and forth, because we were able to like stay in one area and kind of walk there. And once we were fully done, then we would take our taxi back to the hotel. The next tip is to take walking shoes, comfortable shoes, because you're going to be doing a lot of walking. And to be honest, some of our best moments were just exploring and kind of like doing a little detour and walking somewhere. It was good to be able to just walk a few streets and find hidden gems and whatnot. Next, we have restrooms. Restrooms are unique because they didn't have toilet seat covers, so I had to build my own seat with the toilet paper, and some of them charge. So if you're not at an actual restaurant, you're gonna have to pay. Usually we pay like 5 pesos and then we could go in, but then sometimes you also have to pay for the toilet paper separately. And the toilet paper usually is in the entrance. It's not gonna be where the stall is. They were also kind of like small. The stalls, the elevators, everything seemed, even the stairs seemed a little more narrow than what we kind of see here in the US. If you're a lady, I would highly recommend just having wipes with you, especially if that's kind of like what you're used to. I would also highly recommend to hit the touristy areas during the week, because like I said, it's a huge city, there's a lot of people, and it gets packed. There was a few we were there over the weekend, and when we would pass like El Zócalo and like some of the very high touristy areas, like you literally could not see. There was so many people, like hundreds and hundreds of people, and so I was glad that we had gone to like Xochimilco and like some of the touristy areas during the week. That way over the weekend we were able to do things that were a little more chill, especially if you get anxious around a lot of people. If it's your first time in Mexico City, I would recommend a tour. We went on one that was like 10 hours long, and it was really, really fun. We went to Xochimilco, we went to La Casa Azul, which is Frida Kahlo's museum. They took us to the university. It was really, really fun. But with the tours, I've noticed this is a thing no matter the country. They usually take you to a store or a restaurant that they're kind of like connected with, they're in business with. You don't have to buy there. Like you don't have to buy the things that they're selling. In our case, they took us to a jewelry store, and the prices were just as much, or if not more expensive than here in the US, even though I expected silver and gold to be cheaper out there. So I ended up not buying anything. And then when I talked to a taxi driver about the prices, he was like, oh no, that's like a scam, because they're charging silver as if it was gold. So just keep that in mind. Something that we heard often was to separate our money, especially when we were going to the mercados. We were always told, don't take out a big chunk of money, you know, just take out what you think you're gonna spend in that specific stall. So I usually would keep them like a little bundle of 40 pesos or 50 pesos, and then kind of spread it around my purse, my pants, like, you know, like different pockets in my bag, just so I didn't look like I was gonna pull out, you know, 1,000 pesos or something like that. Now, talking about mercados, I highly, highly recommend checking out the mercados. I did go to 2 mercados that I really liked. One of them was Mercado Sonora, and I got candy there, like 2 blocks away, and then I walked to the actual like main mercado, and I got shot glasses. Let me show you actually. These were super affordable at Mercado Sonora, but I will say if you end up going, try to avoid the right side. Like if you're standing from the entrance, avoid the the back right side because they had animals there and it was incredibly sad. I didn't know, so I went all the way down to the right side. The animals they were selling there were in really, really bad conditions and it was just heartbreaking. So I actually ended up leaving there crying. It was really, really sad. So I would say you have to know what mercados you're going into. Yeah, that one was really heartbreaking. We also went to Mercado de las Granaditas, and that's the only place I found huaraches. Let me show you the ones I ended up getting. Sorry, there's a cat hair all over them. But these are the ones I ended up getting, and I was surprised because we couldn't find huaraches anywhere. Like, we looked. Like, the whole time we were there, I was on the hunt for huaraches, and it was very difficult. Just have a few more friends. So tipping, it's about tipping is about 10 to 20%. Similar to here in the US, I would say that when I first got there, I was like tipping a lot more, like sometimes 100% of what the bill was. But you know, I don't regret it. The service was great and feel like it was very well deserved. But I will say keep cash on you because tipping is accepted and appreciated, and customer service is always really good. The people in Mexico City are hustling. They are entrepreneurs. They're doing their thing. So yeah, I would say tip as much as you can, but just keep in mind that 10 or 20% should be fine. Before your trip ends, I recommend that you try something new. Be adventurous, you know, live your best life. For me, it was going to a lucha libre show. I freaking loved it. Like, I already knew it was gonna be fun. There's 2 different organizations that run it, and I think whichever one you go to will be amazing. And my last recommendation is just a few places I think you should definitely try. So I'm just gonna read them out. Xochimilco, which we saw on the tour, it was beautiful. I did fall there and I sprained my ankle, but just be careful. Wear shoes that have traction in the bottom and you will be fine. La Casa Azul, honestly, that's what inspired the whole trip. Frida Kahlo was amazing. Her art is gorgeous and so expressive, and being in her house, you know, it was like a dream come true. Another one was Torre Latinoamericana. We actually went to the restaurant there, and I would recommend it to go during the day or at night because it's like very bougie, but you know, like for like $80, which here a nice restaurant like that would easily be $200 or $300, if not more. You get an amazing view. It was honestly one of the most beautiful things I've seen, and I think it was nice too. I think the first night we were there, the first or the second night, we got that view, which started the trip on really, really good terms. And then lastly, I would say go to the zoo because Mexico City houses one of the only, I think it's one of 3 pandas that doesn't belong to China. So Shin Shin is actually like fully Mexican. Her grandparents were gifted to Mexico by China. They had children, you know, her parents had her. So Shin Shin, I think, is like 19 years old. She's gorgeous. She's like the cutest panda. And I don't know, it was really fun to see it. And the zoo was free, so I really wanted to recommend it to you guys because even if you just go for like 1 hour, you can go in, see Shin Shin, see a few other animals, and then when you exit, you're in the rest of Chapultepec, which is gorgeous. Like, you could literally spend a whole day just like walking around and eating there. But yeah, like for sure, go to the zoo and like these other locations that I mentioned. So yeah, you guys, I think that is it. If you have specific questions, just comment down below. I can make a part 2 if there's things that I missed, but I think these are like the main tips and recommendations that I would have. Ciudad de Mexico is so full of culture. It has so many restaurants. The people are amazing. Like, I truly love it. I think it's gonna end up becoming one of my favorite places ever. I can't wait to go back and just like explore more and learn more about the culture and everything. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.